Hey friends, and welcome to this week's edition of Roaming Taste videos. This week we are making Irish Country Rhubarb cake. Now this is probably one of my most favorite recipes that I've discovered in the past year. It's from the archives from my blog from 2020 and it is probably one of the most fastest disappearing dishes from our kitchen because of how freaking delicious this is. It has an easy, unfussy buttermilk crust and just a ton of rhubarb in the middle with a little bit of sugar. So it's pretty fuss-free and is definitely a great way to celebrate the International Day of the Irish, though it doesn't really have any green. It's okay. We'll let it off because of how good it is. I would love to know how you are celebrating, or if you give this recipe a go by adding a comment below or tagging me on Instagram at Roaming Taste.
The sugar right next to the rhubarb is what goes in the filling. All the other ingredients are to go into the pastry. Now, before we start, we want to preheat the oven to 180 Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The crust comes together in 5 minutes flat, as you'll see here, so it's easier to have your baking dish ready and your rhubarb sliced. First, we want to sieve the flour and the baking powder into our mixing bowl. I also put salt into the flour and therefore then had granules in my sieve. Do not be like me, put that in separately. And once you have sieved it, add in the sugar and we want to stir that together until it's well combined. Once you've done that, you can opt to make a well in the center, it's not really essential, and add in that cold cubed butter. So what we want to gain by doing this, and this will probably be the longest part of the entire process, is to ensure that the butter is really finely mixed into this mixture. And though the pastry doesn't take long to come together, this will probably be the longest and slowest part of the process. If you have a hand or a stand mixer, you're more than welcome to use that if you don't like the feeling of doing this with your bare hands. However, the time it takes to pull those out and mix those through, you probably will have already achieved the result in probably only 30 seconds to a minute less time. It really won't save you a huge amount of time because this is about making sure that butter is really well mixed through. And that is best done by hand. One of the best things about this pastry is how incredibly forgiving it is. Unlike a ice water and butter pastry, this utilizes buttermilk and 1 egg, which means that it doesn't really need to be refrigerated after making it and before you are ready to put your pie filling into it or roll it out. This is literally just throw an egg into some buttermilk, combine it until it is well combined. You really want that egg to be well mixed through, and then you add it into your dry mixture and it will literally create your pastry within 90 seconds of mixing because that buttermilk really soaks up all that dry mixture really well. So you might want to have a little bit of extra flour on hand for when you need this, or when you shape this before you are ready to roll it out. You can absolutely put this in the fridge. This is a great make ahead. You can leave it overnight and then pull it out, and it won't really change the consistency of the pastry very much at all. Though you might find it slightly easier to work with because it is chilled as opposed to being closer to room temperature. If you want to make this all in one go, this is a great pie to do so. As you can see, it kind of turns into clumps when you start mixing it, and you just have to keep at it. And there is a point where you realize that the easiest way to get rid of the last of the dry clumps at the very bottom of the bowl is to really start kind of kneading it and forming it into that dough. With the buttermilk within this, you might find it's a little bit sticky, so I definitely have dried off my hands, or I've even put a little bit of flour on my hands whilst kneading. As you can see here, just letting the dough soak up a little bit of fresh flour. Once it's all made and ready to go, you will want to halve it So you have the base and the topping. As you can see, I used a scale to make sure it was measured exactly half down to the gram. I think I actually ended up having to like cut a gram of pastry off and set one of those aside. You can definitely put it in the fridge, but if you're going to make it roll it all out and you've already got your rhubarb pre-cut, you can just leave it on the side. It's up to you. Now, the way that UK plain flour is slightly different than US, or I can even tell a difference between UK plain flour and New Zealand plain flour, in that it has a lower protein amount. I'm not really going to go into detail here. You can find articles online, and I might even do an in-depth into this at some point, but I can say this kind of bounces back. I find whenever I turn it, you kind of might see there's a few slight wrinkles that form in the dough when you do turn it around, but it will not take long. And it, again, I think because of the plain flour, the lower protein amount, it is incredibly pliable, which makes it really easy, although it's slightly slippery, to put into your pie dish and shape. If you have a pie dish with a lip and not a tart or quiche dish like I have here, then you can absolutely feel free to create a fancy edge to your crust. However, because of the protein amount in UK flour, I always find that unless I sub in some strong bread flour, otherwise it will inevitably sink whilst baking, which you may have experienced, and know that it is not your fault, but it is the flour. We want to create like a ½ inch overhang in that bottom pastry base, and then we want to add in our beautiful rhubarb, which I opted to cut into triangles. You don't have to do that, there's no rules, just cut it however you like into those 1-inch shapes, and then sprinkle over evenly that sugar, and then we want to set the pie aside to do the topping. Now, unlike traditional fruit pies, there is no cornstarch or corn flour added to the filling, which means that when you cut it open, and you will see this later, that the rhubarb and the sugar form quite a juicy or a light syrup that does really spill out. Now, I think it's a bonus. I really like it because it's kind of like a little bit of sauce that I can put on top, or a little bit of sauce that I can kind of soak the top of the pie into. Not that I've done that, I've definitely done that. But if this is not something you would like, I can suggest that potentially a way to have a thicker sauce or a thicker syrup form whilst it's baking is to stir 1 tablespoon of cornstarch or corn flour, whichever you call it, through the rhubarb before you put it into the pastry. This should likely result in a thicker syrup forming, though it will still likely be kind of juicy. And because I've not done this, nor have I seen any other suggestions to do this, it might not be the best end result, but if that's something that you really feel strongly about, you could give it a go, and if you do, I'd love to know in the comments below. Now, because of how pliable or soft this pastry is, I have never had a tear of this, so I feel really grateful. And as you can see here, we have topped the rhubarb, and I really like how there's like little spikes of rhubarb that appear in the pastry topping. The aforementioned issue with my pastry always sinking, and the fact that I don't have a lip on my dish, I opted to keep the pastry super short. In the original recipe that appears on my blog, it actually is like totally cut to the edges all around. There's no decorations at all. But for this one, I opted to roll the dough and then crimp it with a fork just to ensure that it really stuck. Though I've never seen that the pastry comes undone even when it is cut super short and it isn't like crimped together really tightly. Once again, you might find that the pastry is a little sticky between your fingers, so you might want to add like a little bit of flour to your fingertips before you do this. And you absolutely could use a crimping tool, or you could definitely shape it if you have a great little lip on your pie dish. I think this would look beautiful, but really the star of this dish is the rhubarb filling anyway, so don't get too stressed about how it looks. Once we have shaped the pastry and we have decorated it, we need to add some slits into the top of the pastry because we need the pie to breathe whilst it bakes, and this will ensure that if there is any juice that like needs to kind of come out of the pastry, that it can absolutely do that through these slits as opposed to coming out through the edges. Then we want to bake it for 50 minutes until it is golden brown. Oh, it's just so pretty. And we want to let it cool fully before we slice it. This thing is absolutely a thing of beauty when you have a slice. It disappears in like 2 days, and there's only 2 of us in our house, so it speaks volumes. I like serving it with a little bit of pouring cream, but it would definitely taste great with ice cream. Definitely enjoy